by the Mormon Church for more than 100 years, prescribed by state and federal law, polygamy is nonetheless thriving in the state of Utah. Fundamentalist Mormons believe polygamy is a passport to heaven, but for some, it is hell on earth. For decades, a shroud of secrecy has covered the activities of Utah's polygamists. But last year, a sensational court case brought to light shocking details of life in one of the richest and most powerful polygamist sects, the Kingston family. The case began when a frightened teenager made an emergency call to the police from the depths of rural Utah. It was to blow the lid off the state's dirtiest secret. The story she had to tell almost defied belief. Your name is? She was 16 years old and had run away from her husband. But her husband was her uncle, and she was his 15th wife. She had broken the first rule of polygamy. Thou shalt obey your husband.
This is one of the most serious child abuse cases I've worked on. The father located her and took her up to Washakie Ranch, where he took a strap and whipped her some 28 times or more, stating that he was going to give her 10 lashings for every attempt to leave the group.
The girl, who for legal reasons cannot be identified, grew up in polygamy. Her mother was her father's half-sister and one of his 24 wives. When she was 15, she was told by her father, John Daniel Kingston, it was time for her to marry. Despite her objections, she was married to her father's brother, David, seen here with his first wife, Charlie. He was 33 years old and had 14 other wives, but denies marrying the girl. He was charged with unlawful sexual conduct and incest. John Daniel Kingston, the girl's father, was charged with child abuse. Last year, some women who had escaped from polygamous marriages got together and established Tapestry, a group to help women just like themselves. One of the founders is Carmen Thompson.
The women that call our office and ask for help are terrified of the outside world. It takes a lot for them to even call us, and we were once one of them. You're heavily indoctrinated to fear the outside world, to have nothing to do with it. The outside world are sinners, and you may lose not only your exaltation by being involved with this, you very well may lose your life. Many women are leaving under threats of blood atonement, where they can spill your blood simply for the fact that you left. And he said there's only 3 of us in the United States, and I'm the only one.
Tapestry has set up a little shop in Salt Lake City to provide clothes and other essentials for women who have fled their polygamist husbands. They say they want to break the conspiracy of silence surrounding the whole subject.
But because they hide behind this cloak of religion, the state's afraid to do anything about it. State officials have said in many cases that it's probably easier to prosecute the mafia than it is polygamy. Interesting choice of words, I would think, because this really is organized crime.
In response to increased antagonism towards polygamy, a new group consisting of plural wives formed to protest the attacks against the fundamentalist communities. The Women's Religious Liberties Union, with some national backing from the ACLU, was comprised primarily of women from independent marriages.
You mentioned that you were considering filing a class action lawsuit. Are you going to do that? Or?
Okay, we're considering the possibility, and with the ACLU behind us, if I come out and if there's any repercussion, if there's any harm brought upon me, my children, or if any woman steps forward and says she has been injured, then we will consider that.
How long has your group been? When did you form?
3 to 4 days ago.
Oh, yeah, okay.
People have imposed upon my decision on who I'm marrying. And I'm happy. I'm just saying this is my intelligent choice. I'm an adult. and women as adults should choose whom to marry, who to associate with.
How do you feel about women who aren't adults getting married into polygamous relationships?
As if they're coerced into it, then we adamantly oppose that.
Many of the fundamentalists use the term free agency to assert that the plural wives choose their lifestyle. Though this may be the case in some marriages, certainly the experience of marrying into polygamy is incredibly diverse.
Members of the Kingston family ever talk openly about their lives. Jane, a friend of the girl, agreed to speak out only on condition that she would not be identified.
She's betrayed her father completely, and he'll never forgive her because she has committed the unforgivable sin by running away and speaking publicly about who her father is.
When we went to the Brigham Hospital to meet her, she had bruises all on her backside, beginning at the top of her shoulder blades, all the way down her back and the backside of her legs. We have doctors that can testify the fact that this was done with great force and multi-direction with the strap.
For years, the authorities in Utah have turned a blind eye to polygamy. Now, for the first time, the trials of the Kingston brothers have focused attention on the activities of polygamists. The Kingstons strive to avoid all contact with outsiders. They even video strangers taking an interest in their activities. The Standard Restaurant Supply Company is one of many businesses owned by the family and doubles as their curious church. Business interests may require contact with the public, but otherwise their activities remain veiled in secrecy. This home video, taken at a funeral, offers a rare glimpse of life inside the Kingston family. Rowena Erickson, a 58-year-old grandmother, left the Kingston clan after 30 years in a polygamous marriage.
There's a good one. This is Merlin Kingston. He is a brother to the man who created the group in 1935, who is my former father-in-law. And he married about 4 of his nieces, and they have genetic deformities as a result of the intermarrying. There are at least 8 microcephalics. That's children with a small head. There have been 2 births that I'm aware of where they had fused limbs and the children died at birth or shortly after. There have been liver dysfunctions as a result. There is schizophrenia that is quite dominant.
Their genetic structure is very different, so when you see some of them, you just kind of look and you think, wow, you know, they look a little odd.
Girls are encouraged to marry within the family between the ages of 14 and 16. Husbands, usually a close relative, are chosen for them, and the wives are expected to produce a baby every year.
They have a big computer in the organization. Everybody's on the computer. They know which girl is of age. They know her birth date, everything. These men conceive when they tell their wives to. The wives are told to tell them when they're ovulating so that they can impregnate them. They deliver their own babies. They have total and complete control of these women.
Jane, who grew up in the Kingstons, agrees it is a family like no other, and says David Kingston, the man who took his niece as his 15th wife, is a father like no other.
David cares only about his own needs. David has got countless children. He doesn't even pretend to support any of them. He doesn't support them financially. He doesn't help in the raising of the children. The only thing that he's contributed to these children's lives was the sperm to impregnate their mothers.
The Kingstons believe that whatever the risks, by intermarrying within the family and having numerous children, they will protect the purity of their bloodline. But authorities have recently taken some action. John Daniel Kingston, the man who gave his daughter 10 lashes with his belt for each of her sins, was sentenced to 7 months in prison for child abuse and was ordered to undergo 2 years counseling for anger management. His brother David, who denied to the end that he had ever married his niece, was found guilty of incest and sent to prison for up to 10 years. But neither were prosecuted for polygamy. Polygamy itself was never on trial. The teenager at the center of the case is now trying to rebuild her life in the outside world. But there are thousands of young women like her still trying to pluck up the courage to leave. And polygamy remains a prison, ruled by intolerance and bigotry for countless women and children.